And now it's time for a segment we like to call Off-Screen Pays the Bills. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Van. So, what's going on?
Ain't nothing going on with the rent, you know how it is. And so it's a big thanks to our sponsors this week at healthplans.life. Right, Americans. Yes, you. I know it's been an eventful week for you, but when was the last time you peeked under the hood of that baffling health coverage of yours? Or maybe you've just been wandering through the gauntlet of insurance options, hoping for the best, whilst insurers throw acronyms at you like ACA, PPO, HMO, and, I don't know, LMNOP. Well, enter healthplans.life. No, it's not an existential wellness retreat. It's a company that'll actually help you navigate the health insurance minefield. They're not just for the well-to-do or corporate cronies either. Whether you're after a private plan or something from the ACA marketplace, they've got you covered. Income brackets? Healthplans.life doesn't care. They're all about finding decent coverage for all. And if this all sounds too complicated and too much effort, well, you can just give them a ring at 866-759-2933 or head to healthplans.life/offscreen for a free consultation. They'll chat with you, run through your options, maybe even save you a little bit of cash. It's fast, it's free, and it could be just what you need to feel secure in your health coverage. So give them a call at 866-759-2933 or visit healthplans.life/offscreen to get started today. And now, on with the show. We're at Red 1 as we go piece by piece to find the problem with People and Paddington's having a piano lesson in Peru. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
Okay, hello and welcome back to this week's Off Screen. We have loads of movies to talk about today. The one I'm looking forward to the most, of course, is Paddington in Peru, which we will cover. Yeah. Naturally, we've got Piece by Piece, the piano lesson, Red 1, but we are going to start with the problem with People. How long have you got?
How long indeed? They managed to fit it into 102 minutes, to be fair, so they don't really cover all the problems with People, just some of them. Right, this is really sub-Banshees of Inisherin, and I'm going to say that right off the bat, because 5 seconds from now, you're going to be thinking to yourself, this sounds a lot like Banshees of Inisherin. Right, okay. So it stars Paul Reiser. Remember Paul Reiser from Aliens, Mad About You? Bye-bye.
Yes.
You know the guy? Yeah. He has also co-written this, by the way, it's worth noting, and he stars opposite the Celtic Gerard Depardieu, as he was referred to in his youth, Mr. Cole Meany. Do you know Cole Meany? He played Chief O'Brien on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He was the Irish engineer, and he was on the Enterprise and the Next Generation. He was the transport chief. You know the guy? He was the only Irish guy. Yeah, the only Irish guy in the entire Star Trek universe. The most tortured character in all of fiction. They lived to torment that guy on screen. So they are two estranged cousins, right? One Irish, one American. They are the descendants. They are the third generation after a family rift has split these two Irish brothers up. The surviving Irish brother is Cole Meany's father. Sorry, is Cole Meany's great-grandfather, I think. We are told the story by his father. And on his deathbed, Cole Meany's dad says, I want you to repair this family rift. I want to go to my grave knowing that this, 100-year-long family dispute is over. That the family has been reunited, that the two brothers, one of whom went to America and the other one stayed behind, that rift has healed and that this family is back together. And do you know what? Cole Meany goes and does it. This is all set to present day, by the way, before you ask any questions about the logistics of this. It's all done in the present day. So they've all got iPhones. It makes all the sense in the universe how you can find someone in 20 phone calls. We're told it's within 20 phone calls, actually. Right. Paul Reiser is going through a bit of a rough time himself. He's a New York property developer. Very timely, given the events of the week, if we're honest. I'm sure that's going to come up here and there. I have to talk about nepotism twice this week, so it's definitely going to come up. And so he goes to Ireland to basically get away from things, and also, he's got this invitation. Why not? And heals the family rift. Only for a new family rift to then form when, the dad immediately passes away, having left a note saying, "I'm so happy for this rift to have been healed that I'd like to leave him half of my estate and bring the family completely back together." You can imagine his own son has some thoughts on that. Like I say, a whole new blood feud begins. Have a listen. This is The Problem with People.
Cousin Barry from America. Dad, your great nephew, Barry.
Never thought I'd live to see it.
The good Lord granted Fergus such a full life.
Till the American arrives.
Jesus, your father left half of everything to Barry.
Who's to say that my dad wasn't still alive when Barry entered the room?
You need to tell him about the will.
Can you believe the balls on this guy?
Do you know what? I'm getting vibes from what you've said and from watching the trailer myself that this is actually a pretty decent all-round comedy.
No, I would describe... I'm going to have to qualify this statement after I make it. Right. It's what I would describe as dad-friendly. Right, it's a dad comedy. But I have to stress, when I say dad comedy, I mean our dads, right? I mean, dads of, people in their 40s. If you have children in their 30s onwards, this is probably going to be for you because you're about the same age as the characters within the movie. You're about the same age as Paul Reiser and Colm Meaney because they're conservatively in their early to mid-60s, but, quite youthful about it. It's very much that tone and that humour. It's, like I say, it's Banshees of Inisherin with a fish out of water element, a sort of culture clash fish out of water element, in that the American comes to Ireland. They make very pointed references to Bill Forsyth's Local Hero throughout the movie, which... Have you ever seen Local Hero from the 80s? It might be 89, no. I think. It was about an American oil exec who goes to Scotland. And it's a favourite of Mark Kermode. This is the reason I know about the movie, because I had to watch it at one point because he would shut up about it. Talks about it once a week like clockwork. So, about as often as I mentioned The Raid or Snowpiercer, Mark Kermode will mention Local Hero. And they actually, at one point in the movie, watch Local Hero. He actually has it on in the background because it's part of what inspires him to go. So they're not making any bones about it. As Paul Reiser himself said, yes, it's totally different, but that was Scotland. This is Ireland. It's funny. I had some laughs. It's not a big name cast type deal. Like the biggest name outside of Colm Meaney and Paul Reiser is Jane Levy, who plays Paul Reiser's adult daughter. And the fact that Jane Levy is the age she is kind of makes my point for me. But it's dads with kids of a certain age type movie, and I was going along with it. It is like a Poundland Banshees of Inisherin. You know what I mean? It's B&M's Banshees of Inisherin. It's the Yashas of Tina Healy. The Yappers of Tina Healy, I think I was calling it, rather than the Banshees of Inisherin. And you're going along with it, and it's all pretty good, and it's pretty fun, and you're like, actually, this is kind of charming me. It's not overstaying its welcome. It's kind of pedestrianly directed. It's the requisite boilerplate, look, I'm shooting the American Goes to Ireland comedy. So it looks exactly how you think it looked. It's all blue skies, green grass, kind of think it's exactly that movie. But then you get to the ending, and the ending just feels so patronising and so slapped over and so completely out of step with the rest of it. You're just like, oh, God, you killed it. You really killed it. Like, I was really going along with it. It was winning me over, and it creaks over the finish line just because of this really forced, really contrived and creaky ending that just does not work. It just does not work at all. But as the kind of film I would want to... Well, maybe not my dad. I'd watch it with your dad. But maybe not my dad. That requires a sense of humour. But no, I'd watch it with your dad. I'd watch it with my best mate's dad. I'd watch it with anyone else's dad except mine. So if you've got a dad that you like, watch this with him. I'm sure it'll go down gangbusters.
So despite it being for somebody who has got a child in their 30s, obviously that isn't you, you would still say you got some enjoyment out of it. It was just the fact at the end it just...
Yeah, because I was watching a sort of knockoff Banshees of Inisherin. And I'm thinking, do you know what? I'm looking at my watch thing, it's half the length of Banshees, so I can't fault it. you could probably watch this twice in the time it took to watch one Banshees of Inisherin. But obviously, if you're given a choice between the two films, for the love of God, pick the Banshees of Inisherin. This is not winning Oscars anytime soon. But it's perfectly pleasant, and I'm sure when it's on Sky Cinema next month, and you catch it on Thursday at 8:00, you'll not regret watching it. I'm sure it's perfectly charming, and like I say, if we're doing the American Goes to Ireland comedies, at least it craps all over leap year, or leapy ear, as the good doctor himself used to call it.
Well, if you want to make your mind up and go to the cinema before it's out on Sky Cinema, you can, because The Problem with People is in cinemas from today. All right, we're going to do two back-to-back in just a second. We're going to look at The Piano Lesson and Red One. We'll see what Van thinks in just a second. Stay where you are. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. 2 movies to cover here. We are going to look at The Piano Lesson in just a second, but let's dive straight in to Red One. And of course, there's a festive side to this.
Yes, this is the first proper Christmas movie of the year. So I got to put on the LED blazer and the sequin Santa hat and go to the screening the other night. I assure you, it was more effort than the film deserved. latest brainchild of Dwayne Johnson, effectively, because let's call these what they are now. They're all Dwayne Johnson's films. They're his babies. He's micromanaging them to a degree that is absolutely insane at this point, and I'm going to get to more on that. Story by Hiram Garcia, co-written by Hiram Garcia and Chris Morgan, directed by Jake Kasdan, who gave us Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle a few years back as well. And of course, starring Dwayne Johnson alongside Chris Evans, Lucy Liu, Kiernan Shipka, and J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons is Santa Claus. Secret Service designation, Red One. Hence the clever title. 1 year, Santa is kidnapped just before the day before Christmas Eve. And his head of security, played by Dwayne Johnson in a red and green leather jumpsuit, who's meant to be the greatest security guard ever to ever do the job, and it's his last gig before retirement as well, is forced to call in the world's greatest tracker, played by Chris Evans, who's a bit of a miscreant, but he can find anyone. However, he also happens to be on the naughty list. And so Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans, North Pole and New York, have to team up to track down and rescue Red One, overcoming their differences as they go. Have a listen.
Cool place.
Welcome to the North Pole.
Come again?
Last night, Red One, also known as St. Nicholas of Myra, was abducted.
Are you saying Santa Claus has been kidnapped?
You're the best tracker in the world. You're gonna help us find him.
I work alone. You used to. I'm not gonna like you. I can tell right away. Out of everyone here, I like you the least. Garcia?
What the hell?
Shall we do the thing?
I'm afraid we're gonna have to.
You're mine until we find him.
Oh, God!
I suggest you get going.
Claus!
I have to say, I am still chuckling looking at the photo here of Dwayne in his gear. It's like a Santa outfit, but made of lycra. It just looks. It looks. It's a bit odd.
Or an Eddie Murphy stand-up show hosting outfit, because it looks a little bit like what Eddie Murphy wore in Raw, doesn't it? But
yes.
But on a dude 3 times the size. This is garbage. This is absolute garbage. Bar humbug. Oh my God, bar humbug. Right. Do you remember I said this was story by Hiram Garcia, co-written by Hiram Garcia, and did you notice that in that little clip you can hear his polar bear sidekick, whose name it is? Did you catch it? Garcia.
That's Garcia, his name. Yeah.
Do you know who Hiram Garcia is? The writer of this movie,
but sounds
who's never had a screenwriting credit in his life. Do you know who Hiram Garcia is?
It sounds important.
Well, he is if you're Dwayne Johnson. He's not if you're anyone else. Because
it's not his father-in-law, is it?
No, he's his ex-brother-in-law who happens to work for him at his company, 7 Bucks Productions. This is his first screenwriting credit. And do you know what? Not a good start, Hiram. Not a good start at all, mate. Maybe stay in your lane. Maybe keep fetching the coffee for Dwayne. Keep it in your lane. Good Lord. This thing is so derivative. It is obscene. Everything about this just feels like it has missed the mark by a wide margin. You've got Chris Evans. Chris Evans doesn't even work in this movie, largely because they've got him playing a role that was so clearly intended for Ryan Reynolds. Like, it's very patently a Ryan Reynolds role. And as my friend Calvin pointed out earlier, it's then very painfully obvious off the bat that they must have really fallen out on the back of Red One. Because they were belting out a couple of movies together, those two, and then all of a sudden, you got this, and it really seems like they wanted Ryan Reynolds for this. Because it's not a role that you would, in a million years, put Chris Evans to. Because he's sort of a deadbeat, slackery dad type. It's not Chris Evans. He's too smart for this. Anyway, the humour doesn't work. The writing is subpar. It makes Fred Claus from 2007 look accomplished. It is proof positive once and for all of the defining difference between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson, Arnold Schwarzenegger historically sought out filmmakers who could enhance his brand, who could give him a role that would provide his brand with something unique. Dwayne Johnson seeks out filmmakers who will serve his brand, and that you are watching a turgid, clearly made for streaming, quote-unquote franchise launcher, because that was something Dwayne Johnson put on the very first Instagram post about this movie. Exciting new franchise launch. And the rest of us are thinking, for the love of God, just make a film. Who cares about franchises? Just make a film, Dwayne. Just make a film, mate. And if it's any good, and we want a franchise, then go and make that. Don't set out to make a franchise, otherwise you're DC. And we all saw what happened with their hierarchy of power.
Franchises just make themselves, really, don't they? Let's be honest.
Franchises make themselves. You don't make a franchise. And again, we've seen what happens when Dwayne Johnson tries to micromanage a franchise. Again, DC. Anyway, it's god awful. It does make you think we might actually live in the best timeline, and it's one in which Arnold Schwarzenegger was not given complete creative control over Jingle All the Way. A movie that, and this is, I swear to God, this is no joke, a movie I have not seen in 20 years, and I still remember better than this. And I saw this on Tuesday. Couldn't remember until this afternoon who the villain was or what the plot was. Couldn't remember. Well, I had to check the trailer. I was like, oh, that was it. Yeah. Could not remember. Haven't seen Jingle All the Way in 20 years. Saw this week. Does that not tell you an awful lot of the difference between the two men? Avoid this. It will be on streaming in a month. It's complete crap. It will entertain maybe really young and gullible children. Other than that, no. Nobody is falling for this whatsoever.
Well, Red One is out in cinemas from today, if you want to go and watch it. Now, let's move on to The Piano Lesson. I'm really keen to know what you think about this. This is a Samuel L. Jackson new one, and I quite like the premise of it. Being a pianist myself, I know that's kind of loosely attaching myself to it, but yeah, what do you think?
So glad you pronounced the T at the end of that. Anyway, so it's a new movie. It's the directorial debut of Malcolm Washington, son of, can you get it from the surname?
George?
Denzel, but arguably more important. I would argue that Denzel has done more for the world than George Washington. I mean, I could have said differently 2 days ago, but we did have an election.
That was said tongue-in-cheek, by the way. I did know that it wasn't George Washington.
I know.
Just so you know.
So, of course, he's Denzel's son, and he's also John David Washington's brother. John David Washington is the lead of this. Denzel is the producer, and Malcolm Washington is the director. It has been adapted from the play of the same name by August Wilson, who also wrote Fences, which, fun trivia point, was a directorial effort for Denzel a few years ago as well. That was his Oscar one. And they're very similar tones. This follows an African-American family in the late 1930s, post-Depression, who reunites. They've all gone their disparate ways to different jobs, different careers. They reunite in the home of Uncle Doka, played by Samuel L. Jackson, who is on thesp mode here. You wouldn't think it. Samuel L. Jackson is thesping as the voice of reason uncle here. He's gone dramatic. And the family start to bicker and squabble over this ornate vintage piano that they have in the house that has wooden carvings on it that depict the history of their family. The returning brother, John David Washington, wants to sell this piano because, in addition to other savings he's made, this will allow him to fulfill their late father's goal of owning land that he himself formerly worked as a slave worker on. And, of course, brings up all of the blood feuds and all the family drama and even some supernatural mystery along the way. So have a listen. This is coming to Netflix this week. Have a listen. This is a piano lesson.
That's your family. That's your blood. Sometimes you be in trouble. They might be around to help you. Tell your mama to tell you about that piano. Ask her how them pictures got on there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't really have a huge amount more to say about that. It's the trailer gave me a completely different impression, really, to be honest.
It's great. It is actually, the film is actually great. I've got to say, it is great. It's a fantastic directorial debut. Like, good God. And it's worth noting that given that we've just talked about one case of nepotism, some guy's mate getting to, the coffee boy getting to write the big movie and doing I can't use the words I want to for broadcast reasons. Let's just say a poor job. To see Malcolm Washington, who, he's 33 years old, went to film school, graduated film school, went back, got his master's in directing, really put in the time and effort, and has then gone and produced this independent feature, which you can make the claims of nepotism, sure, but it's a very different case to what we had with Red One and Hiram Garcia. This is masterful. This is gorgeous cinematography, wonderful visuals, great framing, sense of scene, great ambiance, great sort of feel of location. The performances, uniformly across the board, are fantastic. And here's how good that cast is. I'm about to say the words, Ray Fisher is fantastic in this movie. And I never thought I would say that because I've written Ray Fisher off after the whole Justice League debacle because he's a crap cyborg and he's whining off the back of Justice League. I'm sorry, I thought was going to make him unemployable, but evidently not, and thankfully not, because he's giving good Lenny here. If you know your Steinbeck, he's giving good Lenny. Samuel L. Jackson, like I say, doing the voice of reason thing. John David Washington, absolutely just swinging for the rafters, owning every scene he can. He's really going hard. I'm better than my dad is very much the message in this movie. It's very much a Denzel who kind of thing you're getting from him. Danielle Deadwyler, just effortlessly brilliant in this, can give so much with just a look. It's a great film that is let down marginally, only, and I say this is the only thing that lets it down, is just, I feel it's a bit too laboured and a bit too drawn out. But every time it feels like it's about to lose you, it reels you back in. And it does it with aplomb. It does it very, very well. Of the 3 August Wilson adaptations that I've seen in recent years, which are, of course, Fences, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and this, I would easily say that this is the one I would watch again first. Like, I don't think I would particularly revisit Fences anytime soon. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, maybe, but this I definitely would visit again. I think it's terrific. It is quite clearly Netflix's Oscar grab, I think, for this year. I think it is filling a certain slot for them. So it does have that feel about it, but it does have the Netflix Oscar season bloat to it, from that runtime. But I think it is terrific and well worth a watch. And that cast is brilliant. And I hate to admit how good Ray Fisher is. He's so good. We were loving him. I will. When we come back from the break, I have another story to tell you about this film. It's immaterial. We can take a minute before Paddington. I have to tell you about the experience of going to Netflix HQ to see this. But I will cap this off by saying the piano lesson, definitely a lesson worth taking.
Well, it is out on Netflix on the 22nd of November. So is it skipping cinemas completely, Van?
No, it's in cinemas, but it's in cinemas, but it's going to be on Netflix.
Right, okay. Cinemas from now.
So you get the week-long Oscar run, and then you get
Brilliant. Well, you can make your own mind up then and see it either in the cinema or wait until the 22nd of November when it's meant to be on Netflix. Right, 2 still to come, piece by piece in a bit. But next we will look at Paddington in Peru. Stay there. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. We're going to dive into Paddington in Peru in just a second, but before that, Van just wanted to talk to me about the piano lesson because you went to see it at Netflix HQ in London, didn't you?
I did, and I have to share this story with you just because I think it's hilarious. Right, so Faith and I went to Netflix HQ literally last night because we were recording this on the Thursday. We went on the Wednesday night to see this. I've never been to Netflix HQ because normally Netflix give me everything on link. You know, they give you one link, and the way that works is you go on your actual regular Netflix account, and a new row appears, and it's called preview content. You have to put a pin in to watch the film. And so they didn't want to do that for this. It's like, no, we're only doing in-person screens. This, you got to come to HQ. I'm like, oh, okay, fine, must. So Faith and I went down last night. Went for a lovely dinner afterwards, by the way. I'm a big fan of cheap meals. I don't know if you've been to cheap meals. I'm starting to love this chain. But just great double patty smash burgers. Anyway, beside the point. So we go to Netflix HQ. I've never been, neither has she. And it's the 5-star baller office building that you imagine it is, right? It's terrific. You go in literally in the lobby, and there's drinks fridges and little sweets counters and things like that. And the lady checks you and says, "Oh, whilst you're waiting, help yourself to drinks and candy. Yeah, go nuts." I'm like, "Okay, cool, thanks." So we do. We get led up to the floor that the screening room is on. The screening lounge. Sorry, it's called not screening room, screening lounge, and that word's going to come up in a minute. And we're waiting, and we get told, "Oh, there's loads more drinks and snacks. Help yourself." They're a bit lengthy, we were told. Okay, half through right up our alley. I was in heaven because everything was keto. It was great. They've got an enormous 4 meter across Queen's Gambit chessboard on the ceiling, complete with the pieces. And I noticed that all the individual rooms are named after Netflix shows. So there's a Stranger Things room, there's a Crown room, there's an Ozark room, all that stuff. We get let into the screening room. And I had no idea what this was like. Now, you've seen enough pictures that I've sent you of screening rooms. They look like miniaturized cinemas, don't they? They're like 20 or 30 seat cinemas. Not the Netflix one. The Netflix one is not modelled on a cinema at all. The Netflix one is modelled on an IKEA living room. As in, it's literally meant to look like someone's... It's a soundproof living room. And you're not watching it on, like, a projection screen. You watch it on a 70-inch 4K telly that's just in front of the room. No sound bar or anything like that. No sound system fitted. Just through the telly audio. And it was way too quiet. They also leave the house lights on for the back half of the room because they seem to think that this reflects the ambience in which you will actually watch them. I'm like, no. I mean, we came out of the film afterwards. I think Faith immediately turned to me and said, "Am I imagining it? Or do you have a bigger telly in your living room than Netflix has in their head office?" I went, "Yes, I do." And they were using an Apple TV. I went, "Yes, they were, like me." She went, "So we could literally have done this from home." I went, "Yes, we could." That's the weirdest experience. I went all the way to Netflix HQ to do a sort of dumbed down version of what I do in my living room every day. Except I close the curtains and I have the blackout curtains, and I have Alexa turn all the lights off and everything. But yeah, just a weird experience. Anyway, neither here nor there. I just had to share that story with you.
But you did get lots of free snacks, Van. There's the main point.
I did. I ate like a keto bandit and then went and spaffed it all away by going for cheat meals afterwards.
Brilliant.
But yeah, anyway. So, on to another cheat meal. This one, of course, being marmalade sandwiches. And I can tell you that at the premiere for this, there were plentiful marmalade sandwiches. And I even came away with a jar of marmalade. So that has to be said. We are, of course, talking about Paddington in Peru. Possibly the most highly awaited threequel of all time. I think Paddington 2 is the second highest rated film in the history of Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's acknowledged by even Sir Nicolas Cage as being the greatest movie ever made, which is now canon. He put it in a movie, so it counts. We have to hold him to that. For this threequel, Director Matt King does not return. Paul King does not return. Matt King's a different guy entirely. Super Hands from Peep Show. Paul King does not return to direct. We get Dougal Wilson directing here. Not that you'd especially notice, because it's very much tonally and stylistically in keeping with the first two. Following in the footsteps of one of the other great threequels of the last century. I speak, of course, of Die Hard with a Vengeance. This one does not take place in the winter season. This seems to take place in a summery season. So rather in the same way that we got 2 Die Hard Christmas movies and then a summer one, you get kind of 2 Christmassy Paddington movies and then a third summery one. This one sees Paddington and the Brown family abscond to Peru to visit Aunt Lucy at the home for retired bears. This trip has come along at the ideal moment for Mrs. Brown, who has been replaced here. She's no longer Sally Hawkins. She's Emily Mortimer. Because the family seems to be growing apart. The kids have gotten older. They've started going off and doing their own things. The daughter's really into her academics, the son is really into his gadgets and his video games and his energy drinks and things like that. And the dad is really Hugh Bonneville is focused on his work. And of course he is. He works for Haley Atwell. I'd be obsessed with my job as well. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, as soon as they land in Peru, though, and they arrive at the home for retired bears, they then learn something unfortunate, something highly tragic. Aunt Lucy has gone missing. Dum, dum, dum. And of course it falls to Paddington and the Brown family to venture into the jungle in search of their missing bear. Have a listen. This is, of course, Paddington in Peru.
Aunt Lucy! Paddington, we're here! Aunt Lucy!
I'm afraid she set off on some sort of quest deep in the jungle, and we have no idea where she is.
Aunt Lucy found me when I was a cub. Now I have to find her.
But the Amazon is quite large.
We have to try.
And I have faith that you will survive.
Do you know what I absolutely love about the Paddington movies is the CGI is just incredible. And I'm assuming...
He's a seamless character, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he really is. He even can see every individual hair on him.
Mm. Yeah, and he's a great character. He's not skipped a beat. And I'm happy to say that the film, like Paddington himself, is every bit as cuddly and charming as you hoped it would be. Like, I thought going into this, I thought the absence of Paul King directing, I thought that's usually a sign that something's not going to go. So obviously he went and did Wonka. That was his thing instead. While they were waiting on Paddington 3, he went and did Wonka. I thought that meant, we're going to get a crap. Oh, and then they recast the mum. Like, this is going to be a crap cash-in threequel, isn't it? No, not at all. Actually, rather excellent. About as good as Paddington 1, not as good as Paddington 2, would be my honest assessment. Paddington 2 is an all-timer. The first Paddington is great. This is great. So, yeah. In the same way that Hugh Grant effortlessly stole every moment that he had in the second one, Olivia Colman does it here. Olivia Colman is the nun, the sort of the Mother Superior who runs the home for retired bears. And because it's a Paddington movie, and because it's Olivia Colman, there's certain plot revelations that you know are going to come, and the movie knows it's going to come, and the movie knows that you know are going to come. And so it just has fun playing with you about it, namely through Olivia Colman. The gags that they give Olivia Colman in this are brilliant, and they are done in such a way that only Olivia Colman could have pulled them off. Like there is an interchange, there's an exchange between Julie Walters as the grandma and Olivia Colman that this is wonderful writing. It's quite on the nose, but it's done in this perfectly balanced way that also maximises that appeal that Olivia Colman has, that I think is second to none. Great cast. You've got a load of returnees, Sanjeev Bhaskar, Ben Miller, people like that all return. Imelda Staunton's obviously back as the voice of Aunt Lucy. And of course, your MVP is always going to be Ben Whishaw as Paddington. It's so hard to remember a time now when Colin Firth had to drop out of this, but... strangely, I'd argue it worked out for the best, really. It's got the whimsy, it's got the adventure, it's got the comedy, it's got the thrills, and it has fun with the sort of the new setting, the jungle setting. It also sort of works as a finale for the story, even though, based on the quality of this, I genuinely, desperately hope that it isn't. I want more Paddington movies. I think they can keep the cast together and they can keep it sort of working at this level. Keep doing more. Honestly, keep doing more. like, for everything that's going to be out this Christmas, and on the child-friendly front, we are going to be, obviously, we're going to be talking about Wicked a lot for the next month.
Yeah.
Moana 2 is the week after Wicked. And then you've got this as well. So there's going to be 3 family-friendly films in cinemas this Christmas. And Wicked is Universal, so that will have gone to streaming before Christmas anyway. Like, it will have hit Disney. It will have hit Peacock, I think 2 to 4 weeks after release. So it will be streaming time for Christmas. Moana 2 is a very different kettle of fish. I will argue that this is the family film for this holiday season. This is the one I think is you can get the grandparents, you can get the parents, you can get the kids. It doesn't matter what age the kids are. Everybody is going to love it and be enchanted by it. There's one every year, and I think this is the one for this year. The Robbie Williams one, I think, is aiming a bit high age-wise, but I think this one is the perfect family feature for Christmas. Like, no competition whatsoever.
I was just watching the trailer then with the photo booth moment, trying to get his photo for the passport. Like, just brilliant. I know there's going to be kids and adults laughing at this.
You will never top for me, because there's a similar gag in the first movie when he goes on the tube for the first time, and it's one of my favourite ever gags in a movie when he sees the sign that says dogs must be carried. He just goes out and nicks a dog. He just carries a chihuahua down the escalator at the tube. That is Paddington. That is Paddington right there. And I adore this character, and I just want to see more of him forever, just as long as they keep making them this good. I will also say, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but I will tell you that the final minute and a half to 2 minutes, we'll say, before this cuts to its end credits, it just ends on a gag that's apropos of nothing. And it's just one of just the best ways you could possibly have ended this film. Because you get to it and you think, this has been a really great time. I've had such a lovely time with this. And then they just lay this final gag and you're like, and it just went to a 5-star. Okay, great job, people. Well done. I'll see you in 3 years. One of those.
Well, there's a tease, though. I mean, that's made me want to watch it just to know what the last 2 minutes of the gag are at the end.
It's getting. I guarantee you, it's getting cam-jobbed on TikTok by Sunday, because that's just the age we live in. And I hope it doesn't get ruined for you, but it's great.
Paddington in Peru in cinemas from today. We have got one last movie to review with Van in a second, Piece by Piece. We'll see what he thought next. Stay there. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen for one last ride. We are diving into something now that don't really know how to describe this, but it's something very different. And actually, if I just read out to you what it's described as on the IMDb page, right? It's described as computer animated jukebox musical, pop musical animation, biography, comedy, family.
I actually think their plot synopsis is kind of on the nose on IMDb, because they describe it as a vibrant journey through the life of Pharrell Williams, told through the lens of Lego animation. Now, to put this in proper context for you, this is a documentary about the life of Pharrell Williams that he has actively taken part in. He's given them full access, and they have, for all intents and purposes, just made a documentary, right? They've then taken that documentary and given it to the guys who do the Lego animation. This is an officially licensed Lego movie, by the way. There was a logo stamp at the beginning, meaning this is part of the Lego canon. What they have then done is mapped Lego animation over the documentary footage that they've shot, even down to the camera movement. So when you've got handheld camera movement with real people, you've now got handheld camera movement in the Lego world. And as well, when Pharrell is telling you a story, and it's sort of, and obviously he's telling us, and you would normally see archival footage or something like that. No, none of that. Now you hear his voice narrating it over the top, and you get it visualized for you in Lego form with fantasy animation. So when he's playing his first gig or something like that, the stage behind him sets up in roarous flames, and unicorn beams shoot through the ceiling, and he literally stands higher than the planet Earth, and like that, but all done in Lego form. Ultimately exploring the origin and then career of Pharrell Williams. And believe me, they really cover his entire career. Have a listen.
And I loved music. Like, everybody loves music, but I'm realizing I had a different kind of relationship with it. Like, it was literally was mesmerizing to me. I didn't even know that I was mesmerized. I just thought that's what all black kids did. I thought we all just stared into the speaker like, whoa. I was seeing colors. It's called synesthesia. It's not something that you see with your physical eyes. It's something that you see in your mind's eye.
Do you know, I am all in with this already. Yep. I mean, not only musically, it's clearly got an absolutely banging soundtrack, but it's done in such a different way. I'm really surprised will.i.am hasn't beaten Pharrell to this.
Right, I will argue that Pharrell is probably seems like a smarter individual on a personal level than William. I'm not calling him will.i.am. I pay my taxes. He's William to me. Anyway, so Bill. It'll be Bill. That's what we'll call him. Bill from Bep. That's what he is. He's Bill from Bep. You're going to put punctuation in your first name. You're going to be Bill from Bep forever. Anyway, beside the point. So that sequence you can hear where he's describing synesthesia and the colours and stuff like that, you actually see that as his like child Lego self being zoomed through the cosmos, and the stars all ripple in line with the music and take him through the galaxies, and it's really something. But as you point out about the soundtrack, because this has to go through the career of Pharrell, well, let's just say I had forgotten just how much of the first half of the 2000s can more or less single-handedly be laid at the feet of the Neptunes. Like, good God, I have forgotten the length of the track list. And you see everything. I mean, you get Gwen Stefani and No Doubt as Lego characters because, we have to document the recording of... Yeah, we have to document the recording of Hella Good. We get a Britney Spears Lego because, Lego minifig because we have to talk about A Slave for You. We get, a Snoop one because we have to cover Drop It Like It's Hot. We get, of all things, a Robin Thicke one because we have to talk about Blurred Lines, for better or worse. Things like that. And then, of course, this is all getting to a point where we are going to have to see some Minions for obvious reasons. It's brilliant. It is really. I would not have thought in a million years that I would be this interested in a Pharrell biopic. If this had just been a straight Pharrell doc, like a live action straight Pharrell, I could have taken or left it, to be honest. But I think what they've done by actually expanding the visual canvas through Lego is actually kind of profound. There is actually an explanation for why they've done it as well. And it has to do with this moment early on that we're shown in an interview in which Pharrell, talking to the director Morgan Neville, who, by the way, directed Won't You Be My Neighbour, the Mr. Rogers documentary, which I absolutely adored. Was it the documentary?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the documentary. So it was a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood was the Tom Hanks one. I always get the two confused.
That's right.
He did the documentary. But Pharrell tells him at the beginning, the whole thing's shot in Lego, but so we actually get the Lego character saying this. Wouldn't it be incredible if, we took this documentary and we just made it in Lego? Because that's like life, life is really just a big Lego set, filled with pieces. There's nothing really original anymore. There's just the same pieces. And it's just about the order that you build them with. And you're thinking, okay, that's just how the guy talks. And he does. You heard the clip. He just talks about everything that way. I mean, I just want to hear him ordering a Chinese takeaway. I really want a chow mein. I really want it to string through the cosmos. I want a chow mein that's really going to expand the palettes of my horizon. That's really going to take me to the nether realm and really show me. Yeah, you wouldn't want to be stuck behind him at the bar. You know what I mean? It's that kind of guy. But it works. But it works for what they have done here. It's actually really interesting. And the funniest part of all of this is this works canonically as the in-universe Lego movie version of the live-action Pharrell one.
Brilliant.
This is Emmett Brickman from the Lego movie watching a live-action Pharrell documentary in his actual Lego world. Of course, it would then be in Lego, so that's kind of the guy. I thought it was great. It's a PG, so you can watch this with Albert, for instance, and he will just be watching a Lego movie. And he'll love it. Because it is bright and vivid and larger than life. And it plays to children. But at the same time, for the parents who, let's be honest, a quite significant percentage of the parents will be fans. Who isn't a Pharrell fan? But they're going to go along with the musical history of this, going to go along with seeing like flashbacks to African-American history, for instance, when you see like Martin Luther King depicted as a Lego minifig and you say, this is what I learned about in school. It's fascinating stuff. It's one of the most interesting movies I've seen this year. I mean, I don't know if I can say it's the best animated film I've seen this year because The Wild Robot exists. But
yes,
it's really something. And do you know how I was saying to you, like, Wild Robot will effortlessly get the best animated feature
100%
this next year? The only real competition for that to this point was Inside Out 2, and that was mostly for money reasons, and also the Academy feel obligated to add the Disney movie every year, which, But this will get in there. This will be film number 3 in the animated feature category. That will get announced in January. You mark my words, this is going to be film. It's going to be Wild Robot, Inside Out 2, this one, wherever Ghibli or the Irish studio have up their sleeve, and jobs are good.
So we can safely say you left the cinema happy.
yeah. Well, put it this way, I was in my living room watching it on Link, so I just had to drop it like it was hot when I went out for a smoke.
Touche. All right, well, Piece by Piece is out in cinemas from today. It's 100% on my list this week. Before we talk about next week, movie of the week this week, I couldn't call it really. You're either going to say Piece by Piece or Paddington, I think.
I'm 1,000% saying Paddington. Like it's Paddington. I'm sorry, no, Paddington it's too hard to beat. I think it's like I say, it's the one that I think will own. Like it'll have a swing back at Christmas. Like people are going to see this in the next few weeks while it's new, and then it'll drown away. It'll sit in the midsection of the box office top 10 up until the actual Christmas holidays. And then the cinemas will be filled. They will get filled with families. This is the one that the grandparents, that the whole family takes the grandparents to. That's what this is going to be. That's what my family would have done. Time was, but I could see that, and I think it's absolutely deserving. It's such a lovely little film.
Bit like going to pantomime, isn't it? At Christmas with the family, there's always one movie that everyone takes the family to.
Exactly that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. All right, well, some great movies this week. Coming up next week, do you want to have a little chat about some of the ones you've got? So we've got Christmas Eve in Miller's Point. Yeah, all the Christmas movies are starting now, quite obviously.
They're starting. It's a shame that Red One had to be the one to kick it off, isn't it? Oh. Anyway, the worst part, I'm a big fan of Scrooged. You ever seen the Bill Murray film Scrooged from 1988?
Yeah.
That movie famously opens with a movie within the movie where Santa's workshop gets overtaken by snow ninjas with Uzis, and only Lee Majors can save them. And the film is called The Night the Reindeer Died. And I was reminded of that film when I was watching Red One, and I kept thinking, that's the Red One that we deserved, was The Night the Reindeer Died. We did not deserve the misfortune of Red One. Christmas Eve in Miller's Point. This is more of a sort of indie dramedy type film. I know that Michael Cera is part of the cast. We've got the link to watch for that one. I'll share with you. Soundtrack to a coup d'etat is about the two jazz musicians who broke into the UN General Assembly in the late 60s to protest the assassination of the Prime Minister of the Congo. So that one's going to be certainly a unique one, I think. Magpie, which is a new action movie starring Daisy Ridley, I believe. I think it's an action thriller starring Daisy Ridley from the Star Wars movies. We've got Joy, which I think is Netflix, and is the story of IVF. It's the story of the first test tube baby, effectively. It's the story of how we pioneered IVF. And last but certainly by no means least, because I'm not sure if I'm going to get to review this because of who's distributing it, Gladiator 2 is out next week as well.
Oh, is that Paramount, is it?
That is Paramount, yes. Yeah. Once we cross this holiday season, we will now be on the 7th year. It will be 7 years that I've been on the Paramount blacklist. So I'm just saying, I'm going to see the movie either way, guys. And I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. And it's not like I talk to no one. So who's really getting harmed here? Also, don't give the public access to the premiere before the release. That's just idiotic. Because of course I'm going to go. Honestly, I can't do their jobs for them. If you're going to hate on someone, hate on them properly.
We'll see if you manage to sneak into one of their screenings in between now and next week somehow, Van. I'm sure you will. You always find a way.
I've got disguises. I've seen The Saint a bunch of times. I can Val Kilmer this, yeah.
Well, that is all we have time for this time round, of course. We will be back next week with more. Until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.